Okay, so this video is for angle pairs part 2. At this point, you have already measured the diagram to the right using your protractor. You might have values 1 or 2 degrees different than mine due to the fact of this line being thicker than a single degree on your protractor, but you should have your linear pair and vertical angle relationships. If you do not, I need you to go hit pause and go ahead and fix that right now. Okay, so we need to go ahead and have our vertical angles and our linear pairs. And so that will help us then list out the values here or relationships on number 2 and number 3. So please go ahead and add these to your worksheet if you did not see these relationships. So 1 and 3, 2 and 4, those had equal measures. And in the bottom of the image, we had 5 and 7 and 6 and 8. Now, angle sum relationships. For the most part, I have seen students quickly seeing the linear pair relationship. So I went ahead and listed these values for the bottom of the diagram. So 5 and 6, 6 and 7, 7 and 8, 8 and 5. Those all were your 4 linear pairs. That same thing happened above. However, I do want you to note that 1, 2, 3, and 4, those all sum 360 degrees. 5, 6, 7, and 8 must also sum 360 degrees. That might help you solve certain situations when we're solving for variables algebraically in the next couple of class periods. So again, if you did not notate the 360 degrees, go ahead and add that to your worksheet right now. 360 degrees. 1, 2, 3, and 4 add up to 360 degrees. 5, 6, 7, and 8 add 360 degrees. So this is reinforcing the linear pair and vertical angle relationships that we've already seen. But we now have this happening. We have 2 lines being intersected here by a 3rd line, and we will look at that same situation here. And I also like you to notate, since we've already measured the values in the bottom diagram, 1, 2, 3, and 4, the values of the angles 1 through 4 did not measure the same as the angles in 5, 6, 7, and 8. In this diagram, go ahead and notate this, please. In this particular diagram, the values from 1, 2, 3, and 4 were not the same. There was not a relationship between the values for 5 through 8. I'll say that one more time. The values of angles 1 through 4 did not measure the same as angles 5 through 8. All right, let's look at this bottom diagram. So on number 5, I wrote the words same as number 2. So all of the vertical angles in, that happened in problem number 2, 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 5 and 7, 6 and 8, those happened, but I had relationships from the 1 through 4 that matched up with 5 through 8. So 2 equaled 6, 4 equaled 8, 1 equaled 5, 2, 4, 6, and 8, they all equaled 65. 1, 3, 5, and 7, they all equaled 115. So I saw a lot of like maybe patterns occurring when I was looking through this diagram. And then going on to the angle sum relationships, again, everything that happened above in number 3 happened. The linear pairs, the 4 values adding to 360 degrees. But I also had other angles that equaled 180. 2 and 7 equaled 180 degrees. 4 and 5, 3 and 6, 1 and 8. There were lots of angles from the top diagram that summed to 180 degrees with angles from the bottom diagram. And then looking at question 7 here, what do you notice about line BD and line EG? So looking carefully, I noticed that these two lines are parallel and they have the parallel markings on them. So that leads me to think here that these similarities are happening because these two lines are parallel, and in the top diagram, M and N were not parallel. So I had some things happening, but I did not have as many relationships occurring here. And so please go ahead and write this down. The values of angles 1 through 4 measured the same as the corresponding angles in 5 through 8. Values of the angles 1 through 4 measured the same as the corresponding angles in 5 through 8. All right, go ahead and take your paper, flip it over to the back. Let's talk about some vocabulary here. So first of all, that line that is intersecting, the line that's intersecting 2 or more lines, that is a transversal. A transversal is one line intersecting 2 or more lines. So in this diagram here, that's line L, and you do not have this particular diagram on your notes, but you have the diagram that has the angles already numbered. So line L is a transversal. If we extended line A and line B, they would then intersect, and we might end up getting, sometimes you might end up with more than one transversal in a diagram, but right now the only transversal in this diagram is L, and it's really important that you understand that right now, okay? So we're going to go through, we have 2 angle relationships that we've already established. That's vertical angles, opposite V's, and 2 angles on a line are a linear pair. We're going to add 4 more official angle pair names today. The first one is corresponding angles. Now, the mathematical definition of corresponding angles is angles that are in corresponding positions. I don't know about you, but when I was in elementary school and my teacher asked me to define a word, her rule was you cannot use the word in the definition that you're trying to define. This is the one definition in mathematics that breaks that rule, as you might say. Now, I have some little tips for you to remember and recognize all of these angle pair names. So please go ahead and write this down as well. Corresponding angles, I'd like you to notice that they are in the same corner. Corresponding corner. See if you can relate those two things together to help you recognize them. Okay? So I have 4 pair of corresponding angles in this diagram. So 1 and 5, 4 and 8, 2 and 6, 3 and 7. So we need to start committing these, we need to be able to identify these angle pairs. Next one, alternate interior. Alternate interior angles would be a pair of interior angles on opposite sides. So I want you to notice that we have 4 interior angles in this diagram. So we need to be inside or in between line A and line B. So the interior angles are 4, 3, 5, and 6. Let me say that again. The interior angles in this diagram are 4 and 3, 5, and 6. Okay? The alternate interior, so those 4 are all interior, but alternate interior. Alternate means opposite sides of this transversal L. So opposite sides. One's on the left side of L, one's on the right side, and it's in between A and B. So the only alternate interior pairs are 4 and 6 and 3 and 5. Make sure you know that alternate means opposite side of that transversal. So the name of the angle pair can really help you identify if you make associations with them. So alternate exterior. There's only 4 exterior angles in this picture. So to be exterior, you're going to have to be above A and below B. So 1, 2, 8, and 7, those are the 4 exterior angles in this diagram. To be an alternate exterior, you're going to have to be 1 and 7 and 2 and 8. An alternate exterior is going to be 1 and 7, 2 and 8. All right, so I want you to take like your calculator or your hand and cover up the definitions here so you can only see this diagram. And so I'm going to list out 2 numbers, and I'd like you to respond with the angle pair name. Okay? 1 and 7. 1 and 7. Good. Alternate exterior. 5 and 1. 5 and 1. They're in the same corner. They are, everybody? Corresponding. One more time. They are 2 and 8. 2 and 8 are what? One more time. Okay. 1 and 3. 1 and 3. Opposite these. What are they? 1 and 3. Opposite these are vertical angles. 1 and 3 are vertical. 3 and 5. 3 and 5. They are interior and they are alternate interior. So this is what your quiz is going to look like over these angle pairs. You're going to have a diagram. You're going to have 2 numbers given to you and you need to name them. So please make sure that you are practicing these angle pair names at this point. What about 2 and 6? 2 and 6 are what? Thank you. They are corresponding. 1 and 7. Alternate exterior. 4 and 6. alternate interior. 5 and 6. Linear pair. 3 and 7. Corresponding. 1 and 8. One and 8. They are both exterior angles, and they do not have an angle pair name, and so you would say no relationship. Okay, so 1 and 8 and 2 and 7, they do not have an official angle pair name, so you would write no relationship. All right, last definition here. The last one here is consecutive interior. Consecutive interior. Those are angles that are going to, a pair of interior angles on the same side of the transversal. A pair of interior angles on the same side of the transversal. So again, those interior angles have to be in between A and B. And so in same side interior are going to be 3 and 6 and 4 and 5. Consecutive interior are same side interiors. Now I know that you were introduced to these last year. You may have had to commit them to memory, may have just been an introduction, but please make sure that this is the last time that you'll have formal notes over these angles here, okay? And you'll continue to use these angles through Math 2, so make sure that you are mastering them as quickly as possible. So what I'd like you to notice here again in this top diagram, that A and B are not parallel, okay? And so parallel lines, remember, they're two lines that never intersect. If you want to say that, if you want a symbol, if you want to abbreviate the word parallel, it's two like slanted L's. And if you want to notate on lines that they're parallel, so I have two lines here, you could just add little arrow symbols. You would add arrow symbols. So in this diagram below, the two lines that are parallel are K and J. I need you to add that to your diagram, please. K and J are parallel. And here are the very important things that you need to know. When these two lines are parallel, and M is your transversal, M is the transversal crossing through K and J, you create a bunch of equal angles. And those names are corresponding, alternate interior, and alternate exterior. All of those pairs become equal when the lines are parallel. When those lines are parallel, the consecutive interior are supplementary. Again, that is when they add to 180 degrees. At this time, we're going to go ahead and fill in the graphic organizer.